Welcome to Invisible Sidekick, a podcast where I sit down and chat with the creative masterminds behind some of your favourite music campaigns. My name is Cam, I've been a creative in music for nearly 10 years, and over the last decade I've crossed paths with some of the best creative talent in the industry, and I've managed to talk some of them into featuring in this series. And this week's sidekick is one of my good friends, French-Canadian Creative Director Laurie TB. So massive welcome to my favourite creative to ever work with, the legendary Laurie TB.
Oh, hi.
So Laurie, tell us about yourself.
Oh my God, what do you want to know?
Absolutely fucking everything.
Oh, how long do I have? Like, how long is this podcast?
So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do, what you specialise in, where you come from, and take it from there, see how it goes.
Okay. Love that. Okay, so my name is Laurie TB on Instagram and all platform, and I'm a creative director. I'm now based in London. I come from Montreal, Canada, so the French part of Canada, if someone was wondering what my accent is. And I work in the music industry. I've been working in the music industry since I think 2015. I did different kind of work, and now I'm a creative director.
And I feel the need to say at this point that Laurie is a creative director that is very hands-on and is involved in every single aspect of the design process and executing her own stuff as well. So she's pretty much in the driving seat from the word go.
I wonder if it's just because it's my need of control, but yeah, I can do that, yeah.
And you know what? I think we all love that. I think we all love to be a bit of a control freak, don't we? And
we are.
And like, I know that I'm like this as well. Like, I want to control every single aspect of a design process to the point where I'm a bit of a backseat driver and probably getting on everyone's tits.
Are you talking about like micromanaging everyone?
I might be guilty of that. I try not to, because that is the worst thing to do when you're involved in a project.
That's the worst thing to do. Worst thing.
Yeah, and I am aware of it as well. What am I saying? No one's going to want to work with me again after they hear this.
He's not like that, guys. He's not like that.
I'm not. A little bit, maybe. I don't know. I can be. I try not to be. Moving on. So me and Laurie have worked together on so many different jobs over the years, but more recently, we were both creative directors for American artist Ava Max for her European tour that we did all the screen visuals for.
Yeah, it was the best one, the biggest one.
Yeah, It was a biggie, that. And if people knew how much work we did in such a short period of time, they'd be all over us for delivery, that's for sure.
And it was so fun at the end of the day. It was still, we made it fun, and we made it work, really.
We did make it work. We come up with like a really productive system, and for about 2 months after the job was delivered and it was all ready to go, we were seeing so many videos and clips of the show from a fan point of view, and it was so good to see.
Yeah, but to see it on the stage, oh my God, what a good feeling.
Yeah, and because it was a festival run of shows, we didn't really know what the stage was going to be like for each of the shows. So there'd be smaller stages that were a bit underwhelming, but then when we get like a really big festival, like a big show with huge stages, like she did one for Coca-Cola.
Yes, with the floor, with like the visual on the floor.
Yeah, we didn't know that was going on the floor.
It's like we haven't done the visual, like exactly.
Yeah, we were like...
I was always like, oh, I did that, what? This is such another scale. Yeah, it was really fun, and it was really like, because they really trusted us, so it was just, we really did whatever we wanted to do, which was great.
And for an artist to have two creative directors involved in their tour visuals is a massive flex, let's be honest. And usually that would be a recipe for disaster, or potential disaster if there's creative differences. But I think the reason why we work together so well, particularly on this project, is because there's things that you can do that I can't do.
And same for you, same for me. There's things you do that I can't do, and that's why we work well together.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's really important as well as a creative that you're aware and honest about what you can't do just as much as you are about what you can do and what you can achieve.
Exactly. And know how to surround yourself with people that are better at things that you're not able to do. Yeah, that's the best way to do
Yeah,
it.
definitely. And there were so many moments that you'd send your stuff across and I'd be like, how the hell has she done that? There were so many times that you'd send your stuff over to me just to have a look to make sure we're all on the same page. And I'd be like, how has she done that?
I'm thinking the same thing. Yeah, yeah. But
It
yeah,
was just,
with
I was,
what you're doing, not what I'm doing. But yeah,
and I
maybe
was
also.
I was like blown away with like all the stuff that you've done, and there was one particular section of the set. I think it was for the song Salt.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was so beautifully black and white and trippy and eye-catching. And I remember watching it being like, this is sick.
Oh, thank you.
And this is why she's here.
Oh, thank you. You know what? I feel like you're so good with like also like 3D and stuff that is so like technical. My strong suit is stop motion, to be honest, and that part was all made in kind of a stop motion effect. And I mean, stop motion is easy to do. You just have to like have good idea, really. And that's how I started with animation at the beginning. The first lyric video I did was a stop motion lyric video in 2020, and I made it so complicated for myself because I didn't had any Adobe like Premiere or Motion like or After Effect or anything. I did it like on my iPad in a random app, and it was literally photo after photo after photo. So I think I had like 300, 400 photos in my stop motion lyric video, and that was my first lyric video. And since I'm like, I stuck with the stop motion thing. I'm not only doing that, but I love to do stop motion, and I just added like more interesting thing. But yeah, stop motion is my day one.
And let me just talk about this for a second, right? Because when I first met Laurie, I was absolutely blown away that Laurie did everything on an iPad. On an iPad.
It's right there. I still have it. I still have my iPad. I still use it every day.
Mind blown, literally. At you being able to achieve these incredible visuals by using nothing but a fucking iPad. And I felt decades behind.
Stop it. Stop
Worthless.
it. Stop it.
Honestly, craziness.
I remember when I thought I was starting to think about getting a computer, but the story is I had a computer and the computer broke on the 1st of January 2020, and then I decided to buy myself an iPad instead because,
to be fair, the whole world
why
broke
not?
in 2020.
Exactly. That was a sign. That was the beginning of a really special year.
Yeah, weren't it just?
That was just the first thing on the list.
What a shit show 2020 was.
Exactly. But the iPad really helped me tap into my creativity when it comes to stop motion and like graphic design, because it's a little bit more easy with the pen and everything. It was a good way to start on Procreate to do stuff. And then 2 years later, I was like, maybe I should buy myself a laptop. And I remember when I texted you and I was like, do you think I can do After Effects? Is it really complicated? And you were like, it is, but once you understand how it works, you're gonna be okay. Yeah.
And then there's me, who has actually never owned an iPad. Polar opposite to you, never owned an iPad.
Oh my god, I think you should.
And that always surprises people. Like, I've got no use for a giant phone.
It used to be more like a giant phone, and now it's more like a laptop, but flat. It really like. There's so much thing you can do now, and it's for me. I'm a really crafty person, and I love to do like I love the organic way. Like I love to like draw, and I love to do collages with like glue and stuff. So to have an iPad with like a pen, it's easy for me to create if I have like a proper pen in my hand. So yeah.
And when you were younger, were you into crafty stuff? Was you like was you a creative child?
Yes.
And who were your inspirations then as a kid?
When I was young, I was a really shy, introvert kid. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I hated school because I was really bad at school, even if I was working really hard, because my brain was just not like working for.
My God, you're breaking my heart here.
Oh, stop it! But it's okay. It's
I'm gonna do a social media call out and get you some friends.
I'm not going to talk about the bullying and stuff then, because I don't want to make you sad. But it's okay. I was like living in my own bubble.
Who the fuck bullied Laurie? Who bullied you? I'm going to send the Evvies.
I want a list of names.
I do.
Yeah, it's okay.
And addresses.
So I was like living
Bastards.
in my own. You know, sometimes when you go through bullying, it makes you like tougher. So now I'm like, just watch me. But yeah, so
I can kind of relate to that, although I was never actually bullied. But growing up during school, I had a really bad stammer, so I couldn't speak fluently like everybody else or like my peers. I used to fall over my words. And it was only when I got older that I really got control of my speech and being able to speak as everybody else.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I think anyone who's only ever known me as an adult or who didn't go to school with me or didn't grow up with me would have no idea. But it was a really big deal in my life for probably throughout my entire childhood, especially high school, because kids are horrible.
Oh my God. Kids are the worst. No, it's okay. I love kids, but God, it's hard to be a kid.
Yeah,
it's
really
hard.
As well, to be fair. I'd have the odd time where like the odd person would maybe take the piss out of me, but
I'm so sorry.
It was a bit frustrating because I couldn't even tell them to piss off if I wanted to because I couldn't get it out.
Oh, stop it!
Fucking hell, I've really low tone
is
here,
getting so sad.
In it. Honestly.
Oh my God, talk about trauma.
Oh, no, tell me about it. People are going to be listening to this and be like, I'm not listening to the next one because what a victim they are.
It's okay. We get stronger because of it.
What we've gone through. Available in
all merch. It's part of it's part of, we need to go through that.
And to be fair, look at us now. We're working for famous people and you're on Facebook looking for a washing machine, so whatever.
I wouldn't say it, but maybe I'm thinking it too.
And I will always say it to make up for all the years that I couldn't say it.
So, okay, to come back to the question, but...
Right, let's get back to it because we're just waffling now.
This podcast is going to be 3 hours long. But it's going to be really interesting.
Extended version coming soon.
So yeah, I was a shy kid and I was living in my own bubble. I was like spending my weekends in my room. At that time, I was really into dance. I always been into music. All my hobby always were around music. And at that time, I was really into dancing. I was taking a lot of dance lessons. Otherwise, I was into theater, like musical theater. I was not singing, but I was dancing and acting. And I will never sing, though. That's where I cross a line. And otherwise, I was really into visual art, too. But I never really... I'm not really good at drawing, to be honest. I love to do it, but I'm not, like, really good. I always love painting and drawing and collage and stuff like that. I think I'm good at collages, but painting and drawing is like, I do it for fun, but I'm not like really good. But it was my way to express myself. It always been. And also fashion. I always been into fashion. I was not talking a lot, but my style was talking for me. When I was like, I don't know, 10, I was like really into like doing some looks ahead, taking some photos of my looks before like the big school started. And like, yeah, I was really into fashion too. So
I can tell actually that you were into fashion growing up because you've got such a unique, quirky style.
Oh, thank you.
You're probably one of the only people that I know that I would recognize from the back purely by what you're wearing.
Oh, see, branding.
So moving on to your inspirations, because I know you were into music and fashion, but was there any artwork that you seen when you were growing up that really made you think, I want to do that as a job? Because I know that I have.
Oh, yeah, it's such a good question. What was yours? I'm just curious.
Mine was Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette.
Aww.
And the story behind that was my oldest sister Julie, she got that album, she got that CD for Christmas one year. And I remember seeing the artwork and being obsessed with the layering and the blending of it and it just being super creative. Obviously, I didn't know what it actually was yet, but I just liked everything about it, the colour scheme, the fact that it was a little bit trippy. I liked the old school typewriter font as well that's used on the album title. And that really sparked a really strong interest in design as a whole, really, but more so the design side of music. And that was something that never really left me, which is probably the very reason I do what I do now.
How old were you?
96, 8.
Aww.
Although I loved that artwork, it never really inspired my style of designing artworking, but it definitely fills me with nostalgia now. But if I look back at it now,
made you feel something.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just got more intense the older I got, the more artwork I seen, the more I grew up, and the more I explored all different types of music.
Yeah.
And that would obviously be reflected in the different types of artwork that I'd seen.
So powerful.
Yeah, I mean, artwork is super powerful. I can remember the first time I seen the Nirvana artwork for Nevermind. And that was such a bold and brave artwork. And now that I'm an adult looking back and thinking, that must have took some serious decision making for that to be approved. Yeah, so mine was Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill. And the thing with Alanis Morissette, she actually become really renowned for having super creative artworks as her career progressed after Jagged Little Pill. So I always enjoy what she's doing next in terms of artwork. So what was your artwork?
Yeah, so I grew up with a lot of music. Like my dad is a musician, my mom was a costume designer, and I was
What a
surrounded
combo.
by that made me who I am. I think it's like visual, it's
Showbiz
music.
fan.
It is. So my dad always brought CD home, like new CD home every week. So I always had a CD around. I don't remember which one was my first CD because it was always there, always new music to listen to. But the one I remember the most was the Beatles' Sergeant
Pepper.
Sergeant Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band. Thank you.
What an amazing
It's a long
artwork.
one. It's for me. It was like the story. I could stare at that artwork for so long, and there's always something new to look at, and there's so much to say. And people were like creating all those story about what it meant, and it didn't mean that much, but it was just people were talking about it so much, and it was such a nice story. I really loved the colors, also so colorful. I love what they did with this one. That was the one I remember the most from when I was young, because I remember that I didn't like the artwork of like Britney Spears, because I love Britney with all my heart. It was like so important for me when I was young. But I remember looking at the artwork and thinking, I don't know who I thought I was. I was like 10, and I was like, I think they should have done something else. It's a little boring. Like, I remember thinking it was boring.
Yeah, there never really any like great creative thought process behind it. I think if you're looking back, it was like just a typical studio shot.
It was marketing. It was just her looking into the camera, looking like a little deer in the headlight, and just like being cute. And I'm like, okay, but what else? Like,
yeah, to be honest, I don't think I've seen any Britney artwork that I think has really had a lot of thought process behind it. Like, a lot of her artworks always look a little bit overdone, and a little bit over the top.
Over edited.
Yeah, almost like just some people experimenting in their bedrooms. Wow, that sounded way more seedy than it was supposed to.
It is.
Honest to God.
I do.
And to be fair, there was plenty of people experimenting with Britney Spears in their bedroom at that time.
Where is this going? Okay, but I can say that I love a lot of her music video, like Toxic,
Yeah,
which
she
is
definitely
still
makes up for it
such
with
a
the music videos.
Exactly. I think the artwork is a part at that time in that specific era of music. It was really more about like selling the face of the artist. It was all about selling the face of the artist, especially if it was a woman and if she was cute. It was all about that. But then music video, 10 on 10. Like,
yeah, and I have heard as well, and I've read a few times that Britney was quite heavily involved in the creative side of her music videos and the creative decision making.
Yes, apparently, yes. Yeah.
Imagine the comeback though. Imagine the impact she'd have coming back and showing the younger generation why she's the icon that she is. Imagine what that would look like.
Britney, call us, Britney. Britney, call us.
The Britney Spears, we will sort you out.
You're gonna love us. Like, it's gonna be so good.
We're going to give you the best visuals you've ever had, the best music videos you've ever had, the best artwork you've ever had, and the best cup of Yorkshire tea you've ever had from me.
Love that. That's a speech. That's how you sell your work.
And that's our pitch. So moving on, you're from Canada. So what are the main differences between the music industry in Canada and in the United Kingdom?
Such a good question. I can't speak for the whole of Canada because I'm from Quebec, which is like the east French part of Canada. I know a little bit about Toronto.
Is that where Celine Dion's from?
Yes, me and Celine.
I've just like generalised the whole of
I
Canada
mean,
with Celine Dion.
if you want a little scoop, I worked on a music video for Celine Dion a long time ago, and it never came out.
Shut up.
But yeah, I'm not supposed to talk about it but I can't because it's a podcast, so you don't see it. But when I was doing styling, I was working on the video, styling the dancer, and the video never came out. So I don't talk about it because I don't have proof. So.
Oh, right. So after this podcast, you're going to have to fill me in with everything. Because that sounds really interesting. But I've had jobs in the past that I haven't seen live day.
Yeah.
It's really annoying, isn't it? Like, I've done some of my best work that I can't share.
Exactly. It's just part of the thing.
It is, and I can't repurpose it for someone else.
You have to.
Yeah, I can't repurpose it for someone else. It's just there.
It's exactly.
It's just a waste.
It's part of the game. But yeah, so I know the French part of the creative industry, musical industry in Canada, and it's really, really different from the creative and music industry here, and that's why I moved. Love my country, love Canada, love Quebec, don't get me wrong, but there's a certain limit to what you can do in the music industry in Montreal, because of course it's small. Because the French part is small, even if it's a little connected with France, is still a really small industry compared to the English, like American or UK music industry. So you have a certain limit on what you can do, and because the industry is small, there's a certain way to do things. People want to stay in line with a certain style. It's always really simple. It needs to always feel like, girl next door, boy next, something really like simple. And at some point, I felt like my own creativity was dying there. Love all my clients I had there. Great people, and they do great work, and there's amazing creative people that come from Montreal, like Kate Renata, Celine Dion, or Denis Villeneuve, all those creative genius. Cirque du Soleil, you can say it with an English accent.
Cirque du Soleil.
Cirque du Soleil. So there's a lot of creative talent there. It's just a lot of them have to get out of Quebec and in order to do something. So the reason why I moved here in the UK, I didn't know anyone in this industry when I moved here in the UK. I just literally just hopes and dreams, and I just felt like the creative and music industry here is more about doing something new. It's about breaking not boundaries, a little bit, but it's just being yourself. It's a lot about authenticity and uniqueness. The US feel a little bit more like there's a mold there. You need to fit in a certain look. But here in the UK, I feel like it's really more about being yourself, doing something different, being different from everyone else. And that's what attracted me here. And now that I'm here, I'm like, that's really what it is, and I love it.
And I'm not just being biased because I am actually British, but I do genuinely think that we have the best music industry in the world.
I feel so too. Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about great artists, I'm talking about incredible songwriters as well.
Yes.
And it's almost become like a bit of a standard assumption that artists over here write their own music, or at least have a co-writing credit.
What I like about the music industry here, there's a lot of teamwork, and it's not hidden. It's not like we don't try to hide the fact that there's a lot of people working on one song. It's collaboration, and it's celebrated. Like, people love to work together, and like you said, a lot of what is new come from the UK. The new trend, even in fashion, it's the same thing. A lot of new trends come from the UK, and then are just transformed once they arrive in the US. I feel like the UK is always 1 or 2 years ahead, and when it comes to culture and art and fashion and music, and yeah, it's really inspiring.
And even in design as well. I mean, we have some of the best design agencies in the world. And we're definitely some kind of design innovators, because we always seem to do things first, or we know how to do things better. and we always push like the boundaries, even in graphic design or whether it's in fashion or in music. We kind of take the lead where that's concerned. And I know that that is a bold statement.
Yeah, exactly. And I find it really funny when a lot of people here ask me, especially British people, they ask me, why did you move to like the UK and not the US? Like I hear that so often. And a lot of people don't realize how good it is here. Like they tend to romanticize what the US is. And I live like 45 minutes from the border of the US. I've been to New York so many times. I've been to the US so many times. And I'm always like, have you been there? Have you been to the US? Do you know how it is? Like or is it just like this story in your head? Like they're trying to sell you a dream. That's not what it is. It's really better here, trust me.
Now, New York, you really have to go there to understand, because if you're British and you just happen to book a trip to New York, it is a bit of a culture shock.
Oh my god.
However, that being said, if you are used to the London lifestyle and the hustle and bustle of a big city, then I think you'd be all right
Yeah.
in New York, because it is very similar in that
It's a big
aspect.
city. It's a big city.
Yeah. And if you're a designer wanting to go to New York, I advise that you go and see Times Square, get it out of the way, go and see the amazing billboards and all the advertising boards and all the creativity there, and then run a mile, because you won't see any Americans there, you won't see any locals there. It's full of tourists and it's chaotically busy. You literally can't swing your cat.
It's a nightmare. It's so intense, so overwhelming. It's really impressive. I've been there on New Year's at some point. It was the best time ever because I went to Times Square after the ball drop and everyone was gone. It was just empty. It was like 3 a.m., completely empty with confetti everywhere on the floor, but like all the big light, it was just magical. It's magical when there's no one. The problem is the people. The people are the problem, but the place is really impressive.
It is impressive. And I tell you what was really impressive, I really enjoyed looking at all the street art that's like scattered around the city. Particularly in the Lower East Side, it's like on a super big scale as well, usually on like the side of a building, and the super fine detail that always had like some kind of deep meaning to it. It was just, I really enjoyed that. And just being sat in a diner with a coffee, people watching.
No, that's one of my favorite activity in the world. People watching. It's so fascinating.
It is. And I get a lot of my creativity coming through when I'm just sat like doing nothing, or I'm sat people watching, or a lot of my creative ideas come through when I'm actually driving, just driving around doing nothing.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a being driving is a way of meditating, and it's the best way to channel ideas and just like focus on something, process emotion. It's driving is
Yeah,
really
but
good.
not
I
driving
miss
in London.
driving. No, I miss driving. I'm not driving here like crazy stuff. I wouldn't.
I drove to London before Christmas and it was a fucking nightmare.
Worst time of the year to drive. The
Yeah,
worst
oh
time.
god, it was just hellish. So staying on the topic of your creative ideas, when did you decide or when did you realise that you were ready to level up to being a creative director?
It's a really good question. As I said, I've been through a lot of different jobs in this industry to begin with, because when I was in school, I thought I wanted to be a choreographer. I was really into dance for like 15 years. So I wanted to do stage, and then I wanted to do theater. I wanted to do TV. And so I did like some extra role, like extra in TV and film and stuff like that. Did a lot of dance, and then I moved into being behind the scene when I was like 20, and then I started to work on set as like a dresser in a costume. So I did TV and I did cinema, and then on the side I was starting to do styling for like my friends and stuff like that. I had friends in the music and that were doing music. They were not in the music industry. We were 20. We were just all starting life.
Yeah.
So I was just doing styling for fun, and then I was working for some designer, and then I think I realized at some point I was also working retail. I was working so many jobs until I was 25. I was just working. I started working when I was 15, and like since I never stopped. I just tried a lot of different things. I was just trying to find my way and trying to find what I like. It always, for me, was always about, and this is gonna sound cheesy, but this is what I wrote in my yearbook in high school. It was always about making music visible in different kind of way. So if it was for dance or like styling, it was just always about making music visible. And I think it was like 25 when I was like really like I felt like I was stuck. I was doing styling, but I was like, this is not it. I know I don't want to be a dancer. I know I don't want to be an actress, but like styling is not enough. So I was like, I'm sure there's something else. And then I just thought about being a creative director without really knowing what it meant. And I just tap into it and decided that I will be trying to talk with the artists I was styling, ask them if I can organize a shoot, if I can create a concept for artwork. And then just from there, I opened my own studio with my friends and back in Quebec in Montreal. And she was doing photos. She was a photographer, and I was doing creative direction and styling. So my way that to sell my creative direction skills was to start as a stylist, which with all my different clients. And I stopped styling when I moved to the UK in 2020. So, and I decided that it was gonna be only creative direction. So it was a long process, but yeah, that's how I made it to where I am.
Yeah, and it's not something you can just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to be a creative director today. That's just not how it works. There is so many levels beforehand that you need to achieve and iron out and get familiar with before you can just jump into that role, because there's so much that you need to understand about a campaign, about the visuals that you're doing, about the message you're putting across,
Yeah,
end goal, targets, planning.
exactly. So many things. I feel like having some like basic marketing skills, and
Oh,
I feel
100%.
like being a creative director for me, it's like it's a calling. You have to have this thing inside you that make you see the full picture. That like you always see the full picture. You always have a step back. It's not just about one asset. It's about the whole project. It's about the storytelling. It's about what the music says, what the artist is. So it's inside you, or it's not really.
Yeah, and it's a similar sort of story to how I got into it as well, to be honest. I started my entire career started, or my like experimentation with design started by editing people's photographs. And I became really good at that to the point where I was ready to experiment with something else, and that's when I delved into design a bit more. But my first proper in-house design job was for a crafting company many years ago. And I learned so much about marketing and social media through that place that it taught me, it gave me the tools and the knowledge for me to progress even further. And after a while, I started experimenting with motion design, and then I became really good at that. So once I'd done that, I thought I want to be involved in like an entire campaign, and how that campaign rolls out, and how it looks on all different platforms, and that's pretty much where I am today.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about planning. Like, I know everybody's completely different the way they do their planning, but I want you to talk me through your process in planning, because actually one thing that I really struggle with is, and I probably shouldn't even be saying this, but is if I don't like your song, then I know that I'm going to struggle.
Of course, because it you have so much to do with this song. Like you have to hear it so many times, and you have to be able. I feel like the work is gonna feel and look better if you, as a creative director, relate to the song. The storytelling is going to be better, the visual are going to be better, because you're going to put more heart into it and more emotion into it. So yeah, absolutely, to resonate with the song is quite important, that's for sure.
And you're creative director for new and upcoming artist Berin Olivia.
Yes.
So talk us through what it's like working on a project like that, where she has such a specific style, which is all styled by you. What was the planning involved in that?
With Baron, she got okay. First thing first, when I get a song when I get the music for a new release, the first thing I'm trying to do is to tap into the artist's vision, whatever what that means. But I'm always first thing I will do is talk with the artist, understand where the song come from, what do they had in mind, because a lot of artists have a certain vision when they do a song. That doesn't mean that the visual they have in their head is gonna be what we're gonna do, but sometimes it's a color, sometimes it's a specific story, or a specific location, or just like something that they can see in their mind. So that's the first thing I try to do, is to tap into the artist's vision. And I think that tapping into an artist's vision is my strongest skill, to be honest. I have a really empathic personality, so I'm like, I have sometimes to take a step back because I'm tapping too much. But it's really where my work starts, and the most important part of my work, because if I can tap into the artist's vision, everything goes smoothly. If we both tapping in the same vision, it's just like easy. And with Baron has his her own like vision for a visual. She knows the vibe she wants. She knows the color she wants. She trusts me because now I really understand what she sees. But she does have this specific vision, and I love working with artists who does have a vision for their visual. Some artists can think that because they know what they want, they don't need a creative director, but that's not how it works. Like, you can know what you want and bounce idea with back and forth with a creative director and make it something really great, and the creative director is going to take your idea, your vision, and make it look even better, and making sure that it resonates with you, the artist, and that it's true to the music. So with Baron, that's how we work. I'm always tapping into her vision. I'm taking the time to listen to what she has to say. And now we're doing more music video. And the past music video, we were like co-directing together because she has a specific vision and then I have a specific vision. So we are literally co-directing video together. So it's a collaboration, really.
I'm sure with every artist as well that when they're recording the song or when they're writing the song, I'm sure they will have some kind of visual in mind of what like the visual side of that music will look like. And I guess our job is actually to be somewhat of a mind reader and kind of bring that to life, which isn't always easy. So I think it does always need to be like a bit of a collaborative effort. And talking about other artists as well, whose creative direction have you been enjoying over recent years?
There's so many. I would say I think my favorite one was Rosalia, her latest album. Everything Rosalia did, so everything was perfect. And more recent, Ray. I don't know. I'm not sure pronouncing her name right. Everything she did, I'm like, yes. The music is so good.
And that has been one of my favorite artworks for years. You've got a big pile of instruments, and a young Ray is stood on a big pile of instruments, and it's just brilliant the way it's been executed.
And it's all the story behind, like all the storytelling that came with the album. It was really, really personal, but it was also talking about the industry and her own struggle with the industry, but in such a nice way. It was such a badass album. I have nothing bad to say. It's like it's the blueprint.
And I don't know much about the process of that album cover. I don't know if it's been generated in AI or it's been 3D rendered, but I'm not sure if it's actually real.
No, it was real.
Oh, it's real.
They used the same set on the day of the release. They put the full like instrument set, white, like with all the title of the song. They used the set to as like a marketing promotion thing. They put it like in front of her old label outside, like in the street.
What an iconic move that is, because she went independent.
Oh my. Exactly.
She went independent because her label weren't releasing her music.
Exactly. So they used the set design of the cover art and put it in front of the label. It was so badass. It was so the release of this album was like.
I mean, that whole campaign was a complete monster, and it was the biggest fuck you to her previous label.
Mm-hmm. But in such a nice way. Like, she made #1, and she was like, "Okay, thank you."
And she's been nominated for 7 Brits this year from an independent artist. That's pretty damn impressive.
I think she's really well surrounded too. She have a really nice, because she's been in the industry for so long, she built a team around her that is not necessarily her label, but she clearly has a really good team.
And she's a pretty sick songwriter as well. I know she's written songs for like Beyonce.
Oh yeah, she's really good.
And I want to talk about this briefly because I thought that Ray's artwork may have had some kind of AI influences, but now that I know that it doesn't, and you know that I'm an AI addict, how do you feel about it?
You're so good with AI. You're so good.
Oh, thank you.
I love everything you do.
Oh, thank you. And AI is not easy.
No.
You know, you've got to be super specific. You're never going to get it right in the first generation. It's just not a thing. It's quite stressful. But I know a lot of people think it's going to come in and it's going to swoop in and steal your job, but that's never going to be the case because it's actually really hard.
It is.
So I wanted to know if you used any AI in your creative direction.
No, I use it more for mood board right now at the moment.
It's such a great tool for mood boarding.
Yeah, because sometimes instead of spending hours scrolling the internet trying to find what I have in my mind, I can work with AI. I still need to work on my AI skills because I tend to give up because it is hard. After like 30 30 different prompts said like 30 different how do you say that, like not reboot but regeneration. See, AI word that I don't know. You get tired, you get frustrated, you know you need a little patience to go through it.
Oh, it can get boring.
It
can
I'm
get
like,
really boring.
I can just do it myself. At some point, I'm just like, I'm gonna do it myself. Thank you. But I think it's something that we need to lean into because it still can be a really good way to do more work or express our ideas or save on budget because you don't have to build a set or something. But personally, my style is a little bit more, I feel like, organic. Like I'm more about real paper and writing, and I'm really more about the crafty side, which is not really the look that AI give. AI give a certain look, and to make it look like it's not AI, that's the real skill.
It is.
That's where the time goes. But yeah, so I want to experiment with AI. I don't think my style will ever be really like a good fit with it, but I want to get better at it because that's the world we live in now.
And it is here to stay, AI. And if you bring it into your work and you are ahead of your game, ahead of the game the way I've been with it, because I knew that it was something that I know that I could effectively use. And use it to my advantage to create things where might not be possible when artists have a lower budget and they don't have the budget to build an entire set. You can actually create that in AI and then maybe add them in afterwards, which is what I've been doing a lot of recently. So I started learning AI last year, so I've been learning it consistently every day for about 8-9 months, and it's made my job very exciting, and I can deliver things that I probably wouldn't have been able to before. And I don't see it as cheating at all. I see it more as a new process to get to a really good end result. And the biggest compliment that I can ever hear is because obviously everyone's aware of AI now, is if people ask if it's real or not.
Yeah.
I was like, well, if you don't know, then I've done a good job.
It means you did a great job, but what you do is AI, but you also work on it on Photoshop, and it's not just pure AI.
100%.
Yeah, that's important to
100%. I've never generated an image that has not required me to add any kind of finishing touches afterwards in Photoshop, or if I want to add some kind of convincing movement in After Effects. But AI is never just the completed artwork. It's always like a starting point for me to then build onto that. So it's never just as simple as generating an image and then that's it, completed. Never. And if I'm working with a photographer and I'm building a set for a scene, then there's so many things I need to take into
Mm-hmm.
consideration. Like, for example, if I'm getting the shots back from a shoot or from a photographer, I need to make sure that the scene that I've created matches the lighting of the shoot, or maybe vice versa, depending on what the arrangement is. And then I would then work on that afterwards, just to add that little bit of depth of realism to the scene and to the shot.
Exactly. It's a tool. It's not like it's not like you
Yeah, you're
hire
dead
someone.
right.
It's a tool that creative use. It's like because you need to have all those other skills in order to
Oh,
do a
completely.
good
I mean,
AI. Yeah.
I recently worked on some artwork, and it took 150 generated images for me to get to that one image that I was happy to start using as a starting point for the artwork. So there is a lot to consider
The,
and a lot of
have,
work involved.
have you seen the meme like AI can sell or can't take our job? Wait,
Y-
have you seen the meme
Yeah,
about the fact that AI can't take our job because
because you
then
need
the
to be super
client needs to
specific.
be?
Yeah, I've seen
And I'm
it.
like,
That's so true.
that's all we need to know.
Yeah,
That's
say
all
no
we
more.
like. That's it.
I've got a really fun question for you now. If you could be a creative director in any era of music, when would that be and why?
Oh wow. Okay. I'm gonna be a little boring, but today, to be honest, like I'm really glad I'm doing the work I'm doing right now and this time. As a woman, also, I wouldn't go back in time.
That's a valid
Um,
point.
and and also like I feel like everything is possible right now. We can do either AI or something crafty or stop motion or like super complicated 3D stuff. So I feel like there's so many possibility right now. There's more voices, more inclusivity. Um, I feel like it's what we can do now is so beautiful, meaningful, and important. And it's not just about now being like having an artist that is like cute or like the 80s like the Y2K was about, but it's more about like the story, the person, the character. Yeah, so I'm really glad I'm doing my job right now, which is nice because that's what it is. So
And to be fair, we've got so many trends from like previous eras of music that are just like making their way back now. Anyway,
oh my god, so many of them. So many of them. Oh,
so let's talk about pressure and how you manage your workload. Because I know you're an incredibly busy woman. You've got so
uh,
much going on, and you've
yeah.
got a life outside work.
Do I?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, nobody has a life when you're a freelancer. So how do you manage your day to day when the pressure builds up?
that's such a good question. Okay, so we're gonna be honest here. Just gonna say things as they are. I started by having a meltdown. Usually, when I get overwhelmed, once I have a meltdown,
Literally me.
then I can relax. We all have to go through it. Like you have to freak out about it first, and then you can move on. I used to be a workaholic. I was when I was younger, and I went through a big burnout when I was 27. And that teach me so much because I had to, from like the first 3 years of a real burnout lasts 3 to 5 years, like a real hard one, and that's what I've been through. So the first 3 years I had to create new boundaries, and that's when I learned how to create boundaries while you work. So now I have a lot of way to cope with stress and overwhelm because I can get overwhelmed quite easily. It's a creative, so it gets really overwhelmed when you have multiple projects because you need to be creative, but you also need to stay on budget, stay on deadline, to be like also your own like assistant and manager and all that stuff. So it can be a lot. So what I do now, when every time I get overwhelmed by my work, I take a break, which sounds for me so counterintuitive, it's not what I used to do. I used to just work more so I can do the work. So I take a break. I do list. I have so many lists. I'm a list woman. Everything is on the list. So I know what I have to do. Everything is clear for me. And when I take a break, I go for a walk. I take a bath. I just get my head out of my work for like 30 to 1 minute to 1 hour. Well, 30 minutes to 1 hour of like not working, and I usually do the work for me. And I take my weekend off, which is big, unless there's like a big project or something I have to do, absolutely. But my burnout also teach me that we work in music, we don't save life, so your mental health is more important than like your work. So yeah.
And I think that's probably the best advice you can give people who are, toying with the idea of actually coming into music. Is actually it can be super demanding. Nobody makes a decision until the last minute. You've got to be on call all the time. You've got to make yourself available for last minute changes, and it's a lot to deal with.
There's like, oh yeah.
And I've had a burnout in the past when I've had too much work on, but I've always thought, oh well, that's just part of the lifestyle, which it fucking shouldn't be, but it is.
No, it shouldn't be.
We just torture ourselves.
Oh my god.
And the thing is, when you get to a point of a burnout, it takes longer to recover from that burnout than it does to get to the point where you feel like you're losing it. And I think that's, you have to be super disciplined where that's concerned.
Oh my god, yes, it is. And it's because especially a couple of years ago, and especially like in America and Canada, like the grind is is so, people love the grind. You think that you need to work all the time in order to be worthy, or like not taking like a weekend is a crime, like literally, from where I come from. And yeah, it's true that like people are working really, really hard here in the UK, and like the work life balance is not perfect, but let's say that it's better than America. Like the work life balance in like the US and Canada is so fucked. Sorry, I don't know if I can say fucked on your podcast, but
swear is just a day-to-day part of my vocab.
It's so fucked. Like you're in the hospital, like, but you still answer email, and taking a weekend is a crime, and like you need to be available all the time. And I feel like in the UK it's still intense, but people have more respect for time off. People take a full month off in summer. I'm like, what is that here? People are just gone for all August. I'm like, what is that? This is all new to me. Like, what? I don't understand, but I love that. That's why I'm here. Love that.
And I think the thing is, you've got to know your own limits, and you've got to set your own boundaries, because we're creatives, and we can't be creative if we are drowning in all sorts of mental issues because we're under pressure, or we're stressed out. But actually, when you return from a burnout, you're never quite the same, because you never want to give 100% because you're cautious.
No, you never will. It's like a part of you dies. It's so intense, but it's true. Like,
and we come back with like a fucking armor on us.
You do. For me, it's like all this. Like I had a shelf. You know, like a
shell
of like, I can do it. There's no problem. I'm like like a superwoman shell of like, I have no limit, no need of resting. I was like thinking that was me, and then the burnout just killed that. And now I'm just like, when I'm tired now, I feel it and I have to stop. Like my body is just like, yep, no, that's it. I'm done for the day. I'm like, okay, I have to, or my work is shit. Yeah, so. Yeah.
And when you do come back fully, you never give 100%. There's always like 20% that you hold back for yourself.
It's the 20. Nah, it was never made to be like used. That 20% you used was never meant to be used. Like you were working on.
And that's a threshold.
Yeah.
And that is, that is the boundary. That once you start entering that 20%, that should be, reserved for you, is when you can feel the burnout building. And I think when you recognise that, but I think you probably have to go through a burnout to really get to that point, to really put that into action. But I think for freelancers, it's really easy to dip into that 20% when you've got like a pressing deadline, rather than just saying, nope, I'm not doing it. You're in my 20%.
No, I get it. Yeah. Because this 20% is never your best work. It's
never worth the stress.
It's never your best work.
And my weekends are mine now. I don't work weekends. I will on like the odd occasion if there's something completely unavoidable. But what I've learned is, I could spend every hour God sends on a weekend trying to get a job done. I'll send it across and I'll feel that relief, and then actually they won't look at it till the fucking Tuesday anyway.
Exactly. And I'm sure that you didn't lose any contract, or you didn't lose any client because you don't work weekend. Like, it doesn't change anything.
And you're no better thought of, so don't do it.
Exactly. It's not worth it.
And I think the biggest battle that most of us creatives actually go through is learning to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Is like spending time and actually properly evaluating whether this project is something you want to do, or if it's worth it, or if you've got time to do it.
Yeah, it takes some time, and it's normal to say yes a lot at the beginning because you want to learn and you don't know yet what you're gonna like exactly. You don't know, but the more you learn, the more you're in this industry, the easier it gets to feel when a project is right or wrong for you. But then you have to act on it.
And it's all about personal discipline.
Oh, yeah. That's a hard one. That's a really hard one.
And I'm not ashamed to say that I am really scared of ever getting to another burnout because it really ruined my life.
Oh my God, it's one of my worst nightmares. That's why I have boundaries, because there's no way I'm going back there. It's terrifying.
It is.
Yeah. But
and that really showed when we both worked on the Max project, that we both had boundaries in place.
Yeah.
And we were both pretty ruthless, being like, nope, we're not doing it this weekend. We'll do it next weekend, or we'll do it in the evenings, but we're not doing it this weekend. And we were pretty bossy, weren't we?
Luckily, we had the same boundaries, because I guess that if we didn't, they would have been not that good. Yeah.
Well, my next topic was actually going to be, what advice would you give to younger creatives wanting to be a freelancer? But I think you've pretty much just answered that.
I mean, if there's one other advice that I would love... So, like, I would love to have got, like, someone told me, like, I would love to go back in time and tell my younger self is, like, be where you want to be found and be yourself. Like, be yourself in your work and what you do. Don't try to follow any trends, because that's all going away anyway. Just be yourself and share your work. Especially now, it's so easy. Share your work, be yourself, and be where you want to be found. That's it. There's no other way to make it in this industry.
And just be authentic.
Yeah.
Just be authentic, because who can be asked being someone else?
If you start on the wrong foot, if you start by selling something you're not, oh my God. Yeah.
People see right through you.
Yeah. It's still a work in progress for me, because now it's getting easier.
Listen, you speak better English than most British nationals in this country.
Stop it. I'm still so self-conscious of that. Like, that I'm not, like, when I'm on set on a photo shoot or a video, that's where it's the most hard for me, because when you try to explain your idea, sometimes it's hard. It's hard to explain your idea in your first language, because it's so abstract.
Yeah.
Trying to tell my vision sometimes is just like, sometimes people just laugh, to be honest, and I don't blame them. Like, I'm just here trying to explain something that doesn't make sense to anyone, but I'm like, I can see it in my head. But it's a work in progress, and I learn to try to love my accent, even if it's weird. People really don't know where I come from. It's a mystery. They're like, are you from France? No, but you don't have a French accent. But, like, you don't have an American accent. And I'm like, no, I have Celine Dion accent. That's what I have.
You do, exactly the same.
Exactly. Me and Celine, same thing.
And it's the same when I was a kid as well, when I had a really bad stutter. I mean, it's just such a non-issue in my life now. It's just like, those days are gone. So, rounding this off now, so who is on the Laurie TB client wish list?
This question is so tricky for me. Like, I have such a hard time doing a list. For me, it's so hard, because I'm sure you know, working with your idol, never a good idea. You don't want to do that. So you don't want to break the magic. You don't want to go behind the scene. So I do the artists.
I am really good at arguing with people as well. And I've got a bit of intolerance for arseholes. So I think if I ever worked with one of my true idols and they ended up being really disappointed and was rude to me, I'd probably be like, you're a prick. Bye.
That's epic though. I wish I had the courage to say stuff like that. Love that though.
I'd maybe say it to my friends and not to them.
You have some time to, don't say exactly what you think in order to work. So all the artists that I look up to are not on my wish list because I look up to them and I like them and I'm just like I want to see what they're gonna do. I want to see what they're gonna come up with.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I love to work with artists from the ground up. I love to build branding. I love to see like an artist like coming like being born. So I'm more about like trusting that the right artists are going to come at the right time. And I'm just, it's more a question of a right fit and both like me and the artist being both on the same page and having fun and having budget. And yeah, that's all I want really. I'm like I want to let lives surprise me. But like, like the Ava Max project was such a good fit and I was not expecting like that would be such a good fit for me. And I was like, yeah, that's such a good fit. So I'm like I try to stay open and to see what like who like will relate to my work and knock on my door and I'd be like, hey, hi. Yeah.
Well, Laurie, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast for a deep dive into your career.
Thank you so much. It was fun. Anytime.
Yeah, it's been great fun. And you can see some of Laurie's incredible work on her Instagram if you want to follow her at Laurie TB. Thank you for joining me again, Laurie.
Yay. Thank you.